What's up, guys? I'm AMAC McGuire. I'm a platinum mix engineer, vocal producer, and songwriter. You've probably seen me here on this channel before with my good friends at Produce Like a Pro, and I want to give a big thank you to them for giving me the platform to share my message. I know that on this channel, we usually talk about musical techniques like how to use a compressor, but today I want to do something different. I want to talk about the realities of the music industry. There are incredible things that happen when you choose to do this with your life. But there's also a lot of things that most people don't want to discuss. I don't think we're doing anyone any favors by not talking about the unfavorable realities of living this life, especially ourselves. To be a pro and do it at the highest level takes more than knowing how to play instruments and record. Not only do we need to know the skills we need and what kind of different paths there are to get there, but also the toll it takes for us to do that. For many of us, the achievement of our goals come at the expense of our own personal health. While music itself has been studied to be good for everyone's well-being and helps with depression and anxiety, it's also been studied that those of us who work in the music industry tend to struggle at a deeper level with mental health. Gross and Musgrave reported via a self-selecting sample of 2,211 musicians and music industry workers that 68% had suffered from self-reported depression and 71% suffered from self-reported anxiety and panic attacks, with later work suggesting that the nature of being a musician was at least partly responsible for these conditions. We're going to talk about some things going on with us all as humans that may add to this. My goal is to help people become more aware of themselves so they can live their dreams in healthier ways than I did. Because yes, I have lived my dreams, but I did it in a lot of unhealthy ways. Music has brought me so many amazing things. I've lived my dreams working with major labels, traveling the world, platinum and gold records, and I've supported myself from this crazy business for years. I've also been stabbed in the back by people that I loved for their gain. I've been cursed out by artists that I have given my everything to, and I've burnt out in epic fashion. I was exhausted. Music became a bad job and I didn't know who I was without it. I have learned many hard lessons about this business, life, and myself through the process. I'm going to speak from my experiences succeeding, failing, and the many things I've learned in between. There are many people who use success to fill a hole inside of them. I was one of them. And I can tell you from personal experience that no amount of platinum records is going to make you happy. But making music in good environments, on dope projects, with people who respect you will. If you ask any wide-eyed, bushy-tailed dreamer why they want to do music with their life, the number one answer is going to be an emphatic because I love it. You'll hear creatives say, I'm married to music. Music's never let me down. For many musical creatives, the phrase music saved my life is one we've all said. When we associate music with saving our lives, even without being aware of it, we often feel like we owe it everything. Can you imagine how easy it is for someone to take advantage of you when you feel like you owe something your life? The industry is full of people who will prey on you because they know this. One of the biggest ways they get you to not stand up for yourself is the threat of taking it away, the threat of being blacklisted, or simply put, fear. So how do you navigate something like that? How do you determine the difference between difficult and abusive? The difference between tired and exhausted? The difference between sacrificing a moment or sacrificing yourself? The difference between criticism and disrespect? The difference between this is worth it and this is not the place for me? The business really is the wild, wild west. There are many people out there who want to take advantage of you, and the only person you can truly rely on to navigate it is yourself. We have to look deeper at ourselves and ask ourselves some questions. What we value, what are our whys, our what, and how we want to live our lives. These are our guides or our compass that we use to move through not only our careers, but our lives. Our values are who we are at our core. Values are what we hold most important, what we believe in, and what we want our behavior standard to be based around. My top 2 core beliefs and values are authenticity and growth. Then we add in our whys. And there are 2 kinds of whys, our purpose whys and our ego whys. Your purpose whys help you move through your work and life in purpose and high self-esteem. Your ego whys help to feed your ego and your insecurities. Our goal is to be aware of all of our whys so we can always check in with them and see which ones are in the driver's seat as we make the tough decisions. We can be living in our values, but are our values feeding our purpose or our ego? My purpose whys are impact and joy. The first time I ever heard the Notorious B.I.G., I was changed. It helped me know and understand myself better. It brought me so much joy. I wanted to and still want to have the same kind of impact and bring the same kind of joy to people that Biggie brought to me. My ego whys are proving people wrong and searching for validation through my accomplishments and success. These stem from a lot of things, but mostly that I held the belief and feeling that I was not good enough. In this case, our what is music. Our what is what we do for our whys and what we use to fulfill our purpose or to fill our ego. Since, of course, we are talking about music as our what, I think it's important to go back into why we love music so much and what that creates. Let's revisit the thoughts, music saved my life. Music has never hurt me. The question is, why did music have to save my life? Speaking from my experience, I felt misunderstood and unworthy. Music made me feel understood and like I wasn't alone. Those things alone created both my ego and my purpose whys. I chose music as my career to be my guardian. That no matter what I was going through, no matter what tough situation, no matter what was happening around me, I was still making music, so it was okay. And that lasts for a while, until one day it doesn't. I'm not the first, or will I be the last, to have hated the thing that they loved. People always say it's the business. That's what burns people out. And they aren't wrong per se. But what I think is really burning us out is the way we choose to live it. And yes, it's our choice. There are a lot of toxic narratives and toxic guidance around music and entertainment as a whole. Like, don't sleep. You only have one shot. You're gonna have to be mistreated to be successful. Music has to be your whole life and your whole identity. You need to be in pain to make good art, and drugs help. I think the biggest reason people leave the business is that they realize they just don't want to live their life this way. So this is where our hows come into play. Ask yourself, how do you really want to live your life? There isn't one way to make it in this business, and we are the ones responsible for how we do that. I spent a lot of years blindly making decisions from my ego. I kept myself in a lot of bad situations out of fear. If you are aware of your guides, your compass, you can make much more sound decisions as you navigate your way through it all. I have to say that I love my career. It brought me here. I know I'm speaking from a place of great privilege that I've lived so many of my dreams. There's no cut and dry answer here. You can't avoid hard things. My only hope is I can give you some tools to help bring some awareness not only to yourself, but to the industry as a whole that you are moving in. So let's talk about a few narratives I mentioned above and how you can use your guides to help navigate it. Let's dive into a favorite topic, long hours. There are many sleepless nights, very long hours, and tight deadlines working in music. What those hours are can depend on what kind of music you're working on. But I know people who work in all genres, in sync and in film. It's grueling. I spent most of my nights up between 5 and 6 a.m. every day, having to be up by 10 a.m. the next. I have seen people who are 24 years old look 45 because they are so prideful in how much sleep that they don't get and how hard they work. I would go and go and go, taking no days off, not sleeping, until I would have a day where I just couldn't get out of bed. Those days were not rest. They were pure exhaustion. This is unsustainable. Those days were fueled by my ego whys, and a great example of how my values can still be leading me into some trouble. It is seen as a badge of honor to burn the candle at both ends and show everyone how hardworking you are. Don't buy into it. I'm not telling you that you aren't going to be tired or work long hours or that staying up late having fun is bad. I've had some of the best sessions of my life staying up until 8 in the morning. Do both. Remember to enjoy your life and the process, but prioritize your sleep and your health. It's also about the people you choose to be around. There's a big difference between having fun making music with people who care about you and being held hostage for hours for stems. More on that in just a few. Next up, we've got drugs. Not only are people staying up late, but a lot of these long late night sessions are fueled by drugs and alcohol. Sometimes sessions are literal parties, and one night of partying can turn into years really quickly. I've worked with a lot of drug addicts. I have had a lot of drugs and alcohol spilled on me. I'm fortunate I was already sober before I got to LA. And if I hadn't been, I have no idea what would have happened to me. And look, I'm not telling you how to live your life. Again, have fun. But I've seen some really sad things. It's really easy to get caught up in this lifestyle when you're rolling, when things are going great, when you're in your ego. This is when you need to be the most thoughtful of taking care of yourself. We want this work to support our life, not take it from us. It's not fun to watch people become incoherent, to not be able to put a sentence together and still be in the booth. It's not fun to be getting yelled at 7 in the morning to bounce down files when you know the person who won't let you leave will not only never open those files, but they're never going to remember that you even did them. I have seen many artists and producers believe that they couldn't create the music without the drugs. I promise you that you can. We can be healthy and still make great art. I'm not sure where the idea that you had to be suffering to make great art appeared. Yes, heartbreak makes for great albums, but please don't live in it forever. Heal and make great art about that. If you make dope music when you're loaded on drugs, the kind of music you can make when you're not is unmatched. We want to be able to tap into our pain, but we don't need to live in it. Trust me, life will never stop giving you something to write about. Life is always going to life. So let me stop here for a second. These are two big realities of the business. So how do we use our guides to navigate this? Let's use the situation with the producer who's keeping me until I deliver stems he will never use as an example. First, am I living in my values of authenticity and growth? For most of this, yes. I'm growing my career, and I believe I'm living authentically as myself until one day I realize I'm kind of not. It's not authentic to me to be threatened by people or held hostage over things that don't really matter. But on the other hand, my career is still growing. My purpose is being fulfilled by helping artists and working on music that could impact people around the world. I did have a lot of joy working in this space, but I guess it's no longer bringing me joy. In fact, it's bringing me the opposite. My ego is getting fulfilled by being able to show people I'm working here, working with these artists. I'm proving a lot of people wrong by dedicating myself to mixing and stopping making beats. Many people told me that was a mistake. I'm also not being soft, and I'm able to take whatever happens. I'm validated because the producer makes me feel special. He needs me, and he'd never treat me the way he's treating others around me. But let me tell you that facade always ends. Well, how do I actually want to live? I for sure don't want to be cursed out by people I'm actually helping. I can't even tell you how many times I was the only one really keeping things together. While the producer was off on a rampage or down for the count on a crash, I definitely want to work with people who respect me fully. I wasn't only getting treated badly in this moment, but I also wasn't getting paid because they weren't handling business correctly. I think it's something to really look out for as well, that if the business isn't being handled correct, the chances of the songs you're working on coming out is kind of slim to none. I could go on and on, but I think it's clear this situation was not in alignment with my guides. There were many signs I ignored because of my ego and the toxic narratives and guidance that I bought into, like taking abuse as part of the job. It took me months to recover from that. I have to tell you that I don't blame anyone involved in the situation other than myself. And I don't really blame myself as much as I take accountability for myself. I saw signs, I stayed, and it was a reflection of how I valued myself. I think it's important to note here that all of the people involved in this were also hurt people, and hurt people tend to hurt people. Nobody abusing drugs is okay inside. They also feel like music saved them, and they would do anything for it. I tell you this not to let people off the hook, but so you know that when you leave these places, none of it is about you. Don't take it personally. I learned a lot from this situation. I wouldn't be the writer I am without it. I wouldn't be the engineer I am without it. I am grateful for many things about it. But I know that if I wasn't so scared and working from a place of insecurity in myself, I could have found a better place to share my gifts during that time. And instead of it taking me months to recover from, I could have found somewhere that would have accelerated me for months or even years. I didn't leave here because it was too hard or I was tired. I left because it was disrespectful and abusive. When we want things so badly, we are often willing to sacrifice ourselves for it. That brings me to another narrative, the one that we only have one shot. Oftentimes, we get caught up in these situations and we're afraid to leave because it might be our only shot to make it. The idea that you only have one shot is the most untrue thing I have ever heard. You have as many shots as you're willing to take. Walk away from things that don't align. Gigs come and go. I have had so many. As long as you aren't a jerk, you're going to be all right. If something isn't for you, if something doesn't work out, don't take it to heart. Keep moving. A great example of this was when I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. I walked away from a major label engineer gig. This was my dream job. I had worked so hard to get in at a major label. I could see all the future plaques hanging on my wall. I worked there for 6 weeks before I was fired or I quit. It kind of depends on who you talk to about it. For wearing basketball shorts. I wear basketball shorts most of the time. Anyone who knows me knows it's my brand. And as a woman in music, it's also kind of been my armor. I came to my interview in basketball shorts and I wore them every day I worked there for 6 weeks. One day, the head engineer takes me outside and says, if you want to continue working here, you can no longer wear the shorts. And I know what you're thinking. Just wear jeans, dude. Don't lose your dream job over clothing. The thing is, everyone was wearing what they wanted to wear there. In fact, when I went back inside that day, there was a male engineer sitting in there wearing basketball shorts, and no one said anything to him that day. They even told me I could wear cargo shorts, And still to this day, I do not know the difference between cargo shorts and basketball shorts, except that cargo shorts are ugly. I weighed the options and even tried wearing jeans one day. I just didn't feel good or comfortable. We're in sessions for sometimes 12 hours or more with people who are doing drugs. I just didn't understand how basketball shorts made me less good at my job. Now look, I'm not telling you this to get you on my side. The point is, after I weighed all my options, how they treated me, how much I got paid, and everything else I had to deal with working there, I decided to stand up for myself. I wrote an email on why I thought the decision was wrong. They brought me in for a meeting, and they told me that they couldn't allow me to work there if I continued to wear basketball shorts. I stood up, I said, "Thank you for your time," and I walked out. That was one of the hardest decisions of my life, but I knew that it wasn't going to stop me from what was for me. I always choose myself and being authentic to me. It was not my only shot, and I went on to work with all the major labels anyway. In fact, 4 years later, I got rehired at the same label in the same seat I got fired in because I was simply AMAC McGuire. Life is a big picture, not a little detail. The last thing I want to mention in this video is music being our identity. A key takeaway from this is finding your purpose and your ego whys are at your essence who you are. Music is the what. It's what we do for our whys. It's not who we are. We can get so caught up in music as our identity that if we lose it for any reason, we no longer know who we are without it. One of the best things I've ever heard is that when you're doing something, do it as though it's the most important thing in the world while understanding that it doesn't actually matter at all. You are not your work. You are you. Look, caring is a huge part of being successful. A reason that I have excelled is that I cared. I also know that I cared too much. I identified too much. And because of that, I was attached to outcomes instead of finding enjoyable experiences. We get so focused on the outcome, and that's why so many of us have trouble when we receive the accomplishments we've been working so hard for, because they don't fill the hole. Validation comes from within, not from outside. Ask yourself if you're enjoying the experience. Is it feeding your purpose or your ego? Are you moving in alignment with your guides towards purpose, towards joy and impact, or whatever it is for you? You won't feel like a fraud or unworthy when you receive an accomplishment because you've always been worthy and you've always been enough and you've always known it. I burned out because I let my ego whys take the forefront for too long. I was never successful enough for myself. I never took days off to live my life. And in fact, I felt bad about it most of the time. One day I was 19 and the next I was 35. Life is ever changing and we have to change with it. Our wants and our needs change over time. Our guides change over time. Don't be afraid to make a change. I never thought my path would lead me here. And still today, in talking to you, my whys of impact and joy are overflowing. Follow your guides. Don't be afraid to say no. You've got all the shots you want to take. Find what moves in flow. Be aware of your whys so you know why you're making a decision. Take care of yourself. Remember that you can always just make music for no other reason than because it brings you joy. I share this because I wish someone had shared it with me. I hope you take your guides with you and you keep checking in. My hope is if more people are aware of these things and are aware of their guides, we can change many of these toxic behaviors, one small impact at a time. These are just a few of my own personal experiences. There are so many more narratives and realities that I can talk about and how can we navigate them? And I look forward to continuing this conversation. My hope is for you to live your dreams in positive environments with people who respect you and care for you, and you take care of yourself. And the biggest moments of your life aren't filled with pain, but instead filled with joy. We are only humans here experiencing life. At the end of the day, are you enjoying it? If you're not, it's time to check in with your guides and see what might be going on. And that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks so much for listening. And thanks again, Produce Like a Pro.